very exciting update we're going to give you today. There's lots going on here at ALCOSAN. We are investing in a lot of infrastructure, both inside the plant and very soon outside of the plant, outside of our normal boundaries. All of that you're going to hear about today. Couple of housekeeping things to go over. Those of you who are with us on Zoom, if you look towards the bottom, you'll see the chat feature. Please use that to ask us questions or provide any comments. You can do that at any time during the presentation. It will not interrupt anything. At the conclusion of the presentation today, we will address those comments and questions. I do want to remind everyone as well that this meeting is being recorded. It will be up on our YouTube channel after this meeting. Again, we thank you for joining us today. We hope you find the information that we're going to provide very interesting. We're doing a lot of work with the Clean Water Plan. There's a lot of things on the horizon, and it's an exciting time to be here. With that said, I want to introduce our Executive Director, Arletta Scott Williams.
Thank you, Joey. And again, welcome, world. This is the once a year that we get to bring you up to date on our Clean Water Plant activities. As Joey indicated, you're going to hear a lot today. We've got quite a bit to put in front of you. We have hopefully made it as interesting as possible and easily digestible, because what we do here every day is it's extremely technical, has a high engineering focus, but we also have the capability to make it meaningful for you. So if this is that moment where you need to go call somebody and tell them to log on, if you need to send them a text to jump in, now's the time. If that does not work out, again, as Joey had indicated, the recording will be available on our website. We would prefer to do what we have done for so many years in the past, be in an auditorium, in a face-to-face venue with you. But in the absence of that, again, this year, we think this will work out well. Please, I will once again remind you to make use of the chat function to be able to participate. Wow, you're going to hear a lot about Clean Water Plan activities. You're not going to hear everything. We wouldn't be able to fit it into an afternoon or a day. You're also not going to hear a lot about what we do day in, day out to provide the necessary services that we do 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Come back to our website and take a look at some of those things so that you can be an informed consumer. With that, it is my pleasure to be able to introduce you to the speakers for today. You are going to hear from our Director of Engineering and Construction. That is Kim Kennedy. Wave to the folks, Kim. You're going to hear from our Manager of Capital Projects, and that is capital projects with a focus inside of the fence line, or those right here at the treatment facility. That is Jeff Hardrose. He got the cue. He's waving already. You will hear from our newly minted Manager of Regionalization. That is Julia Spiker. You'll hear from the guy who gets to be able to say he made it happen, the man who brought you the GROW program, funding for everyone to help you in the municipal world support what we are doing. And then the guy who's going to talk about what everybody wants to hear about right behind Tom Brady's retirement, invasion of Ukraine, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Tunnels, the regional tunnel system, as it expands as the gray backbone of our solutions here for clean water plan compliance. And that is our Director of Regional Conveyance, Mike Lichta. Hold on for the ride. I hope you're comfortable wherever you are, because this is something you don't want to have to use the restroom, flush a toilet, or take your attention away from, even for a second. Trust me, you're going to enjoy it. Kim, take it away.
All right, thank you, Arletta. So today, I'd like to get started by just talking about who ALCOSAN is and what we do. We are the Allegheny County Sanitary Authority. ALCOSAN provides wastewater treatment to 83 communities in Allegheny County, including the city of Pittsburgh, our largest customer. The photo you see on this slide is our only treatment plant. We have one wastewater treatment plant that treats up to 250 million gallons per day as of right now. And it's in our 59-acre facility, sort of beneath the McKees Rocks Bridge. We operate every day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and we are completely funded by our ratepayers. This is our service area. So the service area is those 83 communities that I just spoke of. 20% of our service area is combined sewer systems, and that's the pink in this map. But that 20% of land area is actually 50% of our customer base. And what's important to know about our system is that ALCOSAN actually only owns 90 miles of the interceptors. Over 3,000 miles of the collection systems within the communities are owned by either your individual municipality or a municipal authority. And that's different than many other areas of the country. Here's our problem. Our problem is that during wet weather events, rainstorms, snow melts, additional water overwhelms our system. And that additional water diverts to our rivers and streams. As you can see in this picture here at A64, which is just one of our diversion structures, as little as 1/10 of an inch of rain can cause an overflow in our system. And every year, in a regular average year, 9 billion gallons of overflow release from the system and go into our rivers and streams in a very similar setup to this photo at A64. Now, each one of the overflows has that sign, the blue ALCOSAN sign, to alert the public that there's an overflow in that area. And there are flags put up during wet weather events, certain times a year during the recreation system or season, I'm sorry. Now you'll hear about our consent decree. And what does the consent decree require ALCOSAN to do? Well, it requires us to eliminate sanitary sewer overflows, and that's an SSO. Those are discharges from sanitary sewer systems. It requires us to reduce combined sewer overflows. Those are sewer overflows that are associated with combined systems. And then it also requires us to continue to provide transmission and treatment for all of our customer municipalities. That is the crux of what our consent decree requires us to do. We have to capture those overflows that are now currently going to our rivers and streams. And here is an overview of where we were during the original consent decree and then our modified consent decree. So we did have a consent decree in 2008, which would have required full compliance by 2026. ALCOSAN went back to the table with the agencies and we negotiated a modified consent decree. It bought us an additional 10 years. So now we have to complete this first phase by 2036. And it also includes some adaptive management provisions that are very important to our partner customers and municipalities. There will be additional work after 2036. We are not going to be able to capture all 9 billion gallons with this first phase of the Clean Water Plan. So after that, we finalize this first phase on December 31st of 2036. Then we will develop and implement the final measures plan beyond that date. So you hear the modified consent decree, and then you hear the words Clean Water Plan. Well, the Clean Water Plan is our plan to meet the regulatory requirements of the modified consent decree. That's all it is. It's our plan to move forward with compliance. And it's actually been split into 4 pillars, which you'll hear much more about today during our annual update. Oops. Okay, so there's the plant expansion. There's the regional tunnel system to convey more flow to the plant, store and convey it for ultimate treatment. There's regionalization to help free up some of the burdens of each of our communities owning their own collection systems. And then there's also green infrastructure, source control, and grow grants to help communities get some of that unwanted water out of the systems that kind of is causing some of the overflows. And remember, we also extended our completion date by 10 years and included provisions for adaptive management. So with that, I would like to now turn it over to our Jeff Ardros to talk about the plant expansion and what we've been doing down here at the plant.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jeff Ardros. As Kim mentioned, I am the manager of capital projects on the treatment plant side. The next slide that you'll see is going to show a couple photos from over the last couple years since our treatment plant expansion. This phase of it kicked off several years ago. The photo on the left is demolition of a facility in late 2020, and then the photo on the right, we will talk a little bit more about what you're seeing on the north end. So this slide is showing a Google Earth aerial image of the entire extent of our plant. And I like sharing this photo because this slide in general, because it highlights 2 things. Number one, with the bullets on the bottom right, these are the consent decree requirements that our plant expansion really boils down to. Number one, we need to increase our plant's overall capacity from the existing flow of 250 million gallons per day on a peak day to 295 million gallons per day through secondary treatment. And we need to do that by 2025. And then the other item is providing 600 million gallons per day for wet weather capacity. And that number is 600 million gallons. As I said, our existing flow is 250 million gallons. So we're actually more than doubling our wet weather treatment capacity. And that consent decree milestone is due by 2029. So we will be doubling that capacity in the next 8 years. Actually, not yet. Sorry. And the other reason I like showing this image is because it really highlights one major obstacle that we had to experience throughout the entire this entire phase of the plant expansion, and it comes down to availability of space. So this is the extent of our entire property, and you can see on the east side, which is the bottom portion of the page, that is the Norfolk Southern Railroad. So we are bordered on that side by the railroad. On the west side, which is the upper portion of the photo, is the Ohio River. We're bordered on that side by the river. And then on the south side, which is the left side of the page, is industrial buildings. And so really there is no room for us to grow. So one major obstacle we had to tackle under this phase of the plant expansion is utilizing whatever space we have available and then being creative with creating space to, as I mentioned, double our plant's wet weather capacity in the next 8 years. So how will we get there? It boiled down to two bullets, but we have 4 steps. It starts with our north end plant expansion. And that will increase our secondary treatment capacity from our existing flow of 250 million gallons per day to 295 million gallons per day. So if you've heard of the north end plant expansion on our social media, or if you came out to ALCOSAN open house and stopped by our booth, you would have likely heard about this project. It breaks down to 3 process tanks and then a river wall. Next is our East Headworks project, which is another project that if you came out to ALCOSAN's open house in 2021, you likely heard about. And we will talk about both of these projects in the next slides. Next is what we call our Cso Bypass and Disinfection project. That is going to complete our ability to treat 600 million gallons per day through our existing chlorine contact tank. And we are going to be converting it to a bypass chlorine contact tank. And then finally, that last push is going to finalize that jump to 600 million gallons per day of wet weather capacity by building 2 new primary tanks and a wet weather pump station. So the north end plant expansion, as I said, we've talked about this last year because this construction kicked off in late 2020. The photo on the left is what the site looked like prior to construction. And the photo on the right is taken in November 2021. Now, remember I mentioned that we have 3 process tanks being built, and then there's this river wall. So if you've poked your head over the McKees Rocks Bridge at all over the last year, you have likely seen this river wall, which in the photo on the right is the long wall that is overcoming that obstacle of space availability. In this case, we needed to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to create a little bit of space to build these 3 new process tanks. This structure in and of itself is extremely impressive. Just to give you a scale of how big it is, each of these circular tanks is about 140 feet in diameter. So you can see it's about 1,000 feet linearly, and it's made up of 108 king piles, which are essentially pipes that are anywhere from 60 to 72 inches. So if you turned it on its side, I could stand inside one of them, and then there were 108 of them to build this river wall that's 1,000 feet in length. And since we've now completed that in early November 2021, which is one of the most exciting milestones we hit in 2021, it's really paved the way for future construction this year and in the coming years, because as you see on the bottom left, this construction will continue through 2025, which will get us to that first consent decree requirement of increasing our secondary treatment capacity to 295 billion gallons per day. The East Headworks, another project that you likely have seen or heard about if you came to open house. And we have a time-lapse video showing the progress that has been made since this project broke ground in the summer. And you slowly see the footprint expanding outward. And if you have been to open house previously, whether it's this year or in years past, this area may look familiar to you because that road that you're seeing on the bottom of your slide, that is where open house is hosted. And now this hole that you see, we're getting close to current day, is about 20 feet deep at the lowest point. It's a significant drop off. It's an extremely impressive excavation that's occurring. And again, it's just like the north end. We are setting the stage for in the coming years to move forward and actually build this structure up, which this is a rendering of what that structure will look like come 2025 and that consent decree date that's going to increase our preliminary treatment capacity. The parking garage. This is our third big construction contract going on right now. On the photo on the left is what the site looked like in July 2021 when the construction kicked off. If you have been to our plant and you come up to our security station right at the front and you look left, this is where that project is. It's the first thing you see as you come into the plant. Now, this project really breaks down to that same obstacle that we've been talking about, space availability. We need to get creative with how we can expand our treatment plant capacity with the limited space that we have. In this case, we were able to reduce the footprint of this parking lot, which you see on the left, into a smaller footprint on the right, which was a photo taken a couple weeks ago. That is going to be the footprint of the parking garage, and you can see the structure's already starting to work its way vertically. It will be a couple more stories built on top of that, but this is where we stand currently as of January 2022. And what this project is doing is it's setting the stage for a couple other projects within this plant expansion. Number one, our environmental compliance facility, which you will hear about in coming years. But the other half of the parking lot footprint is where that future facility will be. And the reason for that project is that we are clearing the space for another future plant expansion project, which will be our primary tanks job, which is going to help us close that last jump to 600 million gallons per day by 2029. Here's a rendering of what that parking garage is going to look like when construction is completed later this summer. As I mentioned, that on the bottom right of your screen, that is the security station. So as you're driving to our plant and you look left, this is the building that you will see. A couple other plant expansion project updates. The return activated sludge project. Now this project really boils down to our forward flows are increasing. We're increasing our plant's capacity. So in order to keep up with that, we need to increase the bugs that are being sent back from our clarifiers. Now, really what I can highlight about this project is if you have poked your head over the McKees Rocks Bridge and you've seen any of that above ground black piping that we have on the north end of our plant, that is the bypass piping associated with this project. So if you've ever wondered what that piping is, it is some bypass piping so that this project can occur. The electrical distribution system upgrades project. This is a project that just went to construction in late 2021. So we're starting to break ground throughout our plant. And what it really breaks down to is replacing some aging electrical equipment and relocating our 5 kV substation, which if you look on that photo on the bottom is the X is where the existing one is and the square or rectangle is where the new one is going to be. And why this is being highlighted is, again, it breaks down to that same obstacle we've been talking about, availability of space. We have a lot of projects going on, and what we plan to do with this area is we are going to locate our wet weather pump station there. And so you may be asking what the wet weather pump station is. This is going to be an extremely exciting project. It's going to be where 2 of the clean water plan pillars touch. The tunnel is bringing the flows to the plant, and it's going to end at the wet weather pump station. That wet weather pump station is going to pump those tunnel flows up to our East Headworks project, which we already talked about. This project, we are going to be bringing a designer on board come early 2023 with the anticipation of hitting that consent decree requirement of 2029. Couple other projects that are going to be entering construction in 2022 that we will be able to provide an update on next year. The Cso Bypass and Disinfection project. This project, we're going to be going out for bid this spring. And what this project is going to do is it's going to help us with that step of converting our existing chlorine contact tank, which you see in the photo here. And if you've been on the ALCOSAN open house tour, you've likely seen this chlorine contact tank is being reconfigured to go the opposite direction to provide the bypass disinfection treatment process so that we can make that jump up to 600 million gallons per day. And then finally, the last project that I'll be talking about is the Effluent flushing water improvements project. This is a project that will be going to bid towards the end of 2022. This project is going to be replacing some aging equipment within our system. And if you look really closely in the photo, you can actually see at the far end of the chlorine contact tank, that little green building, that is our EFW building. So when I say effluent flushing water or EFW, what that means is that is our ALCOSAN's recycled water system. It's a sustainable answer to keep our water bills down and reuse water that hasn't necessarily been through the disinfection process, but it can deliver that flow to other areas in the plant for process reasons, whether it's flushing a tank or hosing a tank down. That water isn't meant to be drank or used to wash hands, but it's a way for us to keep our water bills down. And at the same time, it's a great thing to highlight because we've had this sustainable process in place since the secondary treatment of the plant was built in the 1970s. With that, I am going to hand it over to Mike Lichter.
Thanks, Jeff. My name is Mike Lichter. I'm going to provide an overview of the regional tunnel system. Jeff talked about one portion of the overall IWWP, the interim wet weather plan. The other component is getting the flow to the plant for treatment. That's going to be the regional tunnel system. What you see here is a photo of a launch site. It's from a sister city. It's from Cleveland. Actually, they're undergoing this process as we speak, constructing their wet weather improvements. So what we're proposing here is not unlike what is being done in many other cities in the country, such as Cleveland, Atlanta, Portland, Akron, Toledo. They're all going through this process of improving water quality in their respective cities. Next slide. Okay. The tunnel system will consist of 3 large projects. The Ohio River Tunnel. This will include the Chartiers Creek River Tunnel, the Sawmill Run Tunnel. The tunnel will be approximately 6 miles long. Oh, it's not doing that. Okay. As you can see here, okay, it's not going on. Having some technical difficulties. Well, anyway, there's going to be three tunnel projects: the Ohio River Tunnel, the Allegheny River Tunnel, and the Monongahela River Tunnel. Okay, about 16.5 miles of tunnel containing a volume of about 160 million gallons. We're currently proceeding with final design of the Ohio River Tunnel. Design for the Allegheny River Tunnel will begin in 2025, while design for the Monongahela River Tunnel will begin in 2028. During design of these tunnel segments, we'll be refining alignments to minimize surface disruptions during construction. Fortunately, most of the work will be done 100 to 150 feet deep in rock, so there will be no noticeable impacts except where we need to access and launch the tunnel and pick up large combined sewer overflows. New regulators will be constructed on combined sewer overflows, which will regulate flow and divert these flows to the tunnel. Likewise, new shafts will be required as a means for ingress and egress into the tunnel during construction. New drop shafts will also be constructed on large sewer overflow pipes as a means to capture surface sewage flow and send that flow to the tunnel. Consolidation sewers wouldn't be necessary to send flows from the regulator to the shaft, to the tunnel, and then to the treatment plant for treatment. This is a cutaway section of the tunnel. Based on the extensive geotechnical exploration to date, approximately 77 deep borings, some as deep as 400 feet deep, it's been recommended that the tunnel be constructed approximately 150 feet below ground in solid rock. In this diagram, solid rock is shown in brown, while river alluvium is depicted in tan. The tunnel will be located about 50 feet lower than our existing interceptor. A series of vertical drop shafts, shown here in gray, will connect the near surface sewers to the tunnel. The tunnel will be about 120 feet below the bottom of the three rivers. What we're trying to achieve with this facility is we're trying to pick up these large sewer overflows, like Kim alluded to, that are currently discharging to the river and send them to the plant for treatment. Get the sewage out of the river. So where are we? State of Pennsylvania requires Act 537 planning for any large and substantial sewer projects. We are currently undertaking Act 537 meetings with municipalities where the current tunnel is located. That's a regulatory requirement. This step is necessary for us to be able to proceed with permits from the Department of Environmental Protection. Our Act 537 plan document will be available for public comment in spring of 2022. We currently have the Ohio River Tunnel final designer selected, and he's begun preliminary work. We're also begun the task of acquiring property for tunnel and shaft sites and our preliminary alignment. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Julia Spiker, and she's going to talk about regionalization.
Thank you, Mike. The regionalization is one of the key pillars of the Clean Water Plan, as Kim mentioned. This component is the process of transferring the larger sewers and sewer facilities currently owned by the municipality to ALCOSAN. The program began in 2008 when we engaged our municipal partners, their solicitors, and other key stakeholders about what criteria made the most sense for the region to qualify as being eligible for transfer. The result of those extensive studies was determining that any sewer that was multi-municipal, which just means that it accepts flow from 2 or more municipalities and is 10 inches in diameter or larger, met the criteria. As Kim mentioned, ALCOSAN currently owns and operates 90 miles of sewer. Under the regionalization program, as many as 265 additional miles could be transferred to the authority. Along those lines are 6,200 manholes and 77 diversion structures. Diversion structures are simply points within the collection system where flow is routed to where there's available capacity or is allowed to relieve itself through an overflow structure. There are 8 wet weather facilities. Those include 4 pump stations to help move flow to ALCOSAN for treatment, as well as 4 equalization basins that are also eligible for transfer. And those 4 facilities are designed to hold water back during wet weather, then slowly release it once the system has had an opportunity to recover in an effort to reduce those overflows. So this is a large undertaking, but it has many benefits to the region. First, it can improve the management of costs, maintenance, and future improvements. We talked about the unique characteristic of our region being so divided by municipal boundaries, lots of jurisdictional considerations to consider. Under regionalization, we could establish a true regional system that is more comparable to what other authorities similar to ours across the nation operate and manage. It allows us to operate a system as a whole, regardless of municipal boundaries. That leads to more cost-effective and impactful investment in infrastructure. Regionalization is founded in collaboration with our partners and our municipalities. That continues now through establishing the terms of those transfer agreements, working together on necessary repairs, and it will continue post-transfer as we determine what investment is needed in the system, regardless of location, but totally based off of the technical need for a project to be implemented. This is a key component of the Clean Water Plan because it helps us achieve that regional water quality goals. We can operate as a single system instead of limited to what each municipality has governance over. We've reached an exciting point in regionalization, but it did not happen overnight. There are many people and partners that got us to this point. It all started over a decade ago when we began holding meetings with each individual municipality and then larger groups to develop what would be the criteria for transfer. Once that was set, we moved forward with inspections. So ALCOSAN completed what's called CCTV. Basically, a robot is placed in the sewer and takes a video of each pipe segment. We did that on over 300 miles of sewers so that we could assess the condition of the facilities as well as identify any defects. Defects that required repair prior to transfer were all documented and summarized in reports that were provided to the municipalities, along with the video themselves. That way, the municipalities could make thoughtful investment and plan how they were going to do the repairs to complete the transfer process. We took a similar approach to assess those 8 facilities I mentioned. We completed site visits, assessment looking at what needs were needed, what repairs were needed immediately, and summarized those in basis of design reports. We're meeting with the municipalities currently to talk about those repairs needed and collaborate on the best approach to move those facilities forward with transfer. The modified transfer agreements have been sent to all the municipalities. I'm very excited to see them moving forward with execution, and we're now getting to the place where we're working with the municipalities to complete the permitting process, which is one of the last steps prior to transfer. The map you can see shows the 90 miles we currently own. Those are the orange lines that kind of hug the rivers, the main rivers, and then extend up Chartiers Creek and Salma Run in the South Hills of the region. All the branches are what's eligible for regionalization. That's what makes up those 265 miles. So it is a stark difference in what our current regional system is and what it can be. Everything shown in green is indicative of progress the municipalities have made in addressing their repairs, submitting the necessary documentation to ALCOSAN, and now preparing for transfer. They've done a tremendous job in getting to this point, and we're already seeing the benefits in infrastructure through regionalization. Finally, there's the darker black color lines. Those are the locations where we're actively in the permitting process. And that, as I mentioned, is the last step prior to transfer. So tremendous progress has been made on this program, and we look forward to continuing to work with the municipalities as it advances. With that, I'll turn it over to Tim to talk about ALCOSAN's source control and grow programs.
Thank you, Julia. Here to talk about the source control program and GROW. GROW is ALCOSAN's financial incentive program, helping municipalities implement their source control projects. Leading up to the GROW program, source control had numerous challenges. One key challenge was property ownership. ALCOSAN did not own the properties for us to implement source control projects within our customer municipalities. The jurisdiction, being with the municipalities, made these source control projects the realm of the municipalities. With the age of the infrastructure never clearly getting younger, and as Julia pointed out, several defects throughout the system, we needed to find a way to address the region's collection system and the water getting into it. Our topography and soil conditions were very difficult to overcome to implement large-scale green infrastructure. So in 2016, the ALCOSAN Board of Directors authorized the GROW program, the Green Revitalization of Our Waterways program. The goals of the GROW program is to construct projects through our customer municipalities that reduce sewer overflows and also reduce the amount of stormwater entering into the regional collection system. These projects will help the municipalities support their regulatory requirements, along with helping ALCOSAN meet our goals of the consent decree. Some program requirements for GROW. Not everybody can apply for GROW. You must be either an ALCOSAN customer municipality, as Kim pointed out earlier, there are 83 of them, or a municipal sewer authority within the ALCOSAN service area. Each project must demonstrate cost effectiveness. So the cost efficiency of reducing the amount of sewer overflow or the amount of flow entering the system is a key component into determining what the match is for the GROW program. Each applicant must own the site that the project is on or have the legal access to that site through an easement or any other legal means. The applicant must perform flow monitoring or any kind of monitoring to assess project performance. Again, this is a key component to determining how much a project would get matched. And finally, after the project is done, each applicant accepts a 20-year O&M responsibility for that project. There are 4 types of GROW eligible project types that reduce source flows. We have green stormwater infrastructure. Green infrastructure is a way to mimic the natural environment in capturing water and sometimes infiltrating it or sometimes bleeding it back into the sewer system to reduce the peak. Direct stream inflow removal. There have been situations throughout our sewer history where streams are going into a combined sewer. We are trying to get those streams out of the sewers. I&I reduction, as Julia pointed out earlier, there are sometimes defects in the sewer systems that allow infiltration to come into the system. We want to remove that water. And finally, sewer separation, combined sewer systems that can be effectively separated, allowing the stormwater to not enter into the combined system and be routed towards a waterway. So we had just completed awarding our 6th cycle, and today we are starting our 7th cycle with letters of interest to our customer municipalities. Through the 6 cycles, ALCOSAN has the potential with our customer municipalities to remove over 200 million gallons of overflow per year. The amount of money that we have awarded is in excess of $60 million in grants. And we have approximately 140 active projects, and 51 of those projects currently have been completed, have provided final reports to ALCOSAN. Another document that ALCOSAN had produced in 2020 is controlling the source. This document was used to help the municipalities identify where source control projects could be placed within their community. These documents are on the ALCOSAN website, open to the public. We have an executive summary for those who would like to get the quick overview. We have the full report for those who really want to take a deep dive. And we also have a web map. That web map will show you where the projects, potential projects could be. We also have a web map for the GROW program. And this allows you to take a closer look into the ALCOSAN system and see the constraints, the opportunities that are available throughout the region. So controlling the source is a document that is a science-based document that evaluates source controls. We include cost estimating guidelines that we provide to the municipality to help them understand what could be a cost-effective project, and also identify any opportunities that are out there, and also what are the constraints that might not lend itself to a cost-effective project. The controlling the source also identifies some opportunities for leveraging additional funding. And finally, to wrap this all up, I would like to introduce Arletta Scott Williams.
And because I wanted to make sure we wrap things up with oomph, I am now going to introduce our Director of Environmental Compliance, because that's why we're here. We are here for environmental compliance. Michelle Buys is going to wrap things up and take you through the Q&A section. Michelle?
Thank you, Arletta. Get back on the slide. Okay, so what we heard today was a lot of information on the design and the construction, which is where we're at today. And we also heard about regionalization and grow. So a lot of the plan that we have is adaptive, and then that is built in our consent decree for the purpose of allowing us to change the plan as we roll along in the future. You saw the schedules. We have a 2036 deadline, and then we have a beyond a 2036. So the programs that were described today, such as, like I said, as Tim shared with us, the controlling the source, the GROW project, and the regionalization will all be long-term projects that will help us bring along and allow us to be adaptable as we move forward. And as you noticed today, there were a lot of great information that was shared. It's all information that is on our website. If you go to alcosan.org, you'll see pull-down menus for the clean water plan. There's frequently asked questions. We also have a CSO alert program, which is for the public to be notified when CSOs are active. There's a lot of information on our open house. It'll give you many years of open house, and it also will provide you information on our upcoming open house in September of 2022. We have great resources on scholastic outreach and education. For a lot of school districts in our region, it provides us a great resource for our young learners to grow up and learn about water quality and wastewater treatment. And of course, we have a great communication department that provides information on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And we always have speaking engagements that are posted on our website. So at any time, stay in tune. They usually pop up on the sidebar, and you can join just as you did today for this information session. This concludes our information. We're going to open it up for question and answers. I know there was a lot of things that were discussed today, so there might not be, a question in your head right now that you can think of, but as you roll along or you think of something, we have our phone number on our website to reach out to us at any time with a question you may have. Now, the one question we did receive is, will the presentation be available for download will the presentation be available for download after the presentation today? And the answer to that is yes. It'll be on YouTube.
Video, not the presentation. The video will be available
Okay.
on our YouTube channel.
Okay, so I apologize. I should have diverted this right to the source. But the presentation, the recording today will be available on YouTube. So if you get on YouTube and search ALCOSAN Annual Public Meeting 2022, you should be able to pull that up. And if there's any other questions that you want to put in the chat, we will be glad. We have a full room of resources here that are available to answer. And like I said, if you have something that comes up at a later time, you can feel free to call ALCOSAN or at any time, reach out to us via website or any other ways to provide communication.
I think there's another question.
Okay. The other question we have, the video of today's, that's the answer. Okay, let me get on my one that you provided to me so that I can see it. Okay. Okay. That was the answer. Okay. We'll give a couple of minutes for a question. I know there was a lot of information. We go from, wastewater treatment expansion to tunnels, to regionalization, to grow and source reduction. A lot of information is shared. So please feel free to ask. We have the experts in the room. We have one other question that came in, and I will read it out loud here. Is there a time frame on when the ORT, which is the Ohio River Tunnel design, will be completed and procurement process started? I'm going to turn that over to Mike Lichting.
Yes, the ORT design is slated to be complete in mid-2024 and awarded by January 2025.
Okay, thank you for the question. We're going to wait for a few minutes here for other questions to come in. Okay, if we have no other questions, we will want to remind everyone that on our website, there is a contact us form. So you can feel free to fill that form out. Your questions will be answered. Or there's a phone number on our website as well that will direct you to the right person that can answer your question. If you would like to watch the presentation afterwards and share that with anybody that you that may be interested in the project or what ALCOSAN is doing, feel free to share this presentation and reach out again with any questions via our website or phone number. Any one of us would be available to answer any of your questions. On behalf of ALCOSAN's board, the executive director, Arletta Scott Williams, and all the directors here at ALCOSAN, we appreciate your time today and your interest in the ALCOSAN Clean Water Plan. We look forward to further communication with our plan. And like we said, if please reach out to us with any questions. It's a big project, a complicated project, but we're here for your questions and answers. We thank you for your time.